Christian parenting.
This calling isn't about control. It's
Yeah.
about compassion. You don't have to have control of the situation, but it's by having compassion for these kids, and compassion what God has called you to do. God's plan may break your heart before it builds your faith. Remember that.
That's so
Okay?
good. Hey, families, welcome back to the Call to Love podcast. And we are going to pause in our summer series because I have a very special guest and a very special conversation to share with you today. We are going to be sharing the story of coming from a war-torn country and adopted into a Christian home, and what God does in finding purpose in our plans that we don't have, but He has. And we surrender to those, and we learn a lot in the midst of all of it. So my special guest today is Jackson TerKeurst. Jackson TerKeurst is an entrepreneur and a leader who continues to defy the odds as a first-generation immigrant from West Africa. He owns and runs a small business, and he is the adopted son of best-selling author and speaker Lisa TerKeurst. Jackson is passionate about drawing together people from diverse backgrounds to experience authentic community and share the work that the Lord is doing in and through him. Jackson, I am so thrilled to have you as my guest today. Welcome.
Thank you, Summer. It's great to be here today.
Yes, fantastic. Now we're going to tell your story and just the things that the Lord has taught you through that. But we're also going to be talking about your new book, which is out this week. And it is called The Only Way Forward is Back, a story of war, adoption, and finding your purpose in God's plan. I'm so excited to dive into this with you. Let's begin by allowing our listeners just to get to know you a little bit better. Tell us about your family and the work that you do.
Great. Thank you, Summer, for having me. I am a father to my amazing and beautiful wife, Amanda, for 9.5 years. And we are blessed to have two incredible twins, Legend and London. They are full of fun, energy. They want to be outside all day, every day, just enjoying life.
I love it.
I am also an author, a speaker, and a financial literacy professional. That's what I do on the side. And I share my story to bring hope to others, especially those who have walked through pain and adoption and identity struggles. So I'm glad to be here today to share some of those things with
Oh, that's incredible. I love that. It sounds like you're not busy at all, Jackson. You're
you.
just
I am
you're just laying low, living life, right?
I am very busy. I tell you, my friend, it's a lot of
I
work.
love
I love
that.
it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. And I mean, your passion just comes through just even in our initial moments together and visiting and getting to know one another. So I know listeners, you're feeling that as well. So we're excited to dive into your story, and it begins in a war-torn country far away. So if you would just kind of share with us about your early childhood experiences.
So some of my early childhood experiences prior to the war, it was very peaceful. It was fun. It was it was like just living normal life in the village. We woke up every morning around 5:36 in the morning, and my mom, my brother, and I, we would head to the farm where we had a bunch of crops, and my brother and I were over the rice farm to make sure that there were no birds that come and eat the rice, because we had a rice farm, and we had
Wow.
our own cornfields. We had a lot of like vegetables we just grew in the farm. So those are early days of our lives, and we come back to the village and bring our chickens back with us, and cook a huge pot of rice and whatever, and just enjoy each other, enjoy life, and hang out in the village at nighttime, and have a ceremony every night, and just do life. That's how life was for me growing up in the village. Very simple, and I had no idea that there was life outside of the village. Yeah, that's all I knew.
Mm.
All I knew was, the village boy, village life. Never been to any other cities or countries, anything like that. So I was just a bush country boy living very local and simple to life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds amazing, honestly. In a very fast-paced world that we live in, I'm listening to that and I'm like, "Oh, I'd love to do that." But then things changed.
Yep. Things really changed a lot. So, but I'm blessed to be in that position to have that upbringing, because it was really because of my father that I was introduced to other things like education, or
Mm.
learning how to read and write because in the village we didn't have that in the village at all until my dad would come in the village and get me and take me to another city that was next door where I would go to school and learn my ABCs and alphabet and things like that. That's how I got to learn how to speak English a little bit, somewhat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. So, when did things start to change in terms of that wonderful magical childhood and leaning into your education and a beautiful relationship with your family and your community?
Mhm.
When did it start to go the other direction?
Well, it all happened in the black of midnight. We came from the village, I mean, from the farm, and we just had a normal night with our family, ate dinner, celebrated life, and we all went to bed like any normal night.
Yeah.
And out of nowhere, at 3, 4 a.m. in the morning, I hear this loud noise, very strange noise I never heard before. It
Mhm.
woke me up. It woke me up to where I jumped off my bamboo bed straight onto the dirt floor, freaking out, scared, as and confused as to what's happening, you know. And I quickly realized that rebels have infiltrated my village. I didn't know what these people were. You know, we never seen no violence at all. I mean, nothing. We just living very poor people, very, very, very poor people. We had
Yeah.
nothing to offer. We had nothing to give. And next thing you know, that within seconds, there's like a gurgling sound of gasoline being poured on top of my hut.
Oh
And the
my.
next thing you know, it's being lit up with fire. And I'm scared. I'm 7 years old and I'm freaking out. How do I get out of
Yeah.
here? What's going on? I'm so confused. Where's my mom? Where's my dad? Where's my family? You know? And that night was a night that my whole entire life changed from a peaceful life to having to run for the rest of my life and being traumatized.
So, in the midst of all of this, I mean, how does your family respond? What happens from there?
Well, I don't want to give the book out already, but my family, we all respond with fear.
Yeah.
Like we all respond with fear. And the whole entire village, people were screaming everywhere, you know, and we are trying to figure out how to understand the level of what is happening because it's so new to us. And my auntie stuck her head out the window one time and looked out, and then she saw people everywhere with guns and machete guns and just killing people.
Mm.
And we were scared. It was just me and my aunt in the house, and my mom and dad had gone somewhere else. So it was just me and her there at the house. So um, out of nowhere, she came out of nowhere and just grabbed me by the arm, literally, and put me on her back, and we ran into the safety of the woods. That's all we can think about,
Yeah.
and that's all we knew. So we didn't have time to process. We didn't have time to go find someone to talk to about what's happening, call our neighbors and say, hey, have you seen this? What's happening? You know, Africa is Africa. It's very dangerous at some places, you know. Um, and this guys was not messing around at all. They were not playing at all. They were there to destroy, just like the devil. They were there to destroy. They were there
Right.
to kill for no reason. No reason. As I mentioned before, we were very poor villagers, nothing to offer, just farmers. And yet they came and attacked us and took everything from us. And that really devastated me, my family, and everything else we worked for.
Yeah,
You know?
of course.
Yeah,
Oh, my goodness. It's a hard reality for us to recognize, but we need to be so mindful of that it goes on all the time. And we as believers need to be praying
yeah,
for those who are subject to the evil that you're describing and what it does to families and what it does to children. So, Jackson, I have to ask you in the midst of all of this, were you aware of God at this time? Or when did you first hear about him?
well, I was not aware of God this time, just because I was so very young. And living in the village, we had a lot of tribal things we did. So we didn't have like going to church or anything along those lines. Everything was ritual in the family.
Yeah.
Like my grandfather was a witch doctor, for example. So he
Okay.
so he fought witches. He fought witchcrafts, and to make
Right.
sure that our family was protected from witchcrafts and other things like that in the village was. So I had no idea that Christianity or God was a thing until one day my dad came to me. He said, "Hey," he said, "Kemu." Kemu is my name, Kemu. So I said, "Kemu, get dressed. We're going somewhere." And I didn't fight back. I got ready real quick. One of my pair of shorts, my t-shirt, and my flip flops. And he and I walked about 4.5, 5 miles to on this dirt road to this rural area that had just one hut. And from a distance, you can hear noise and people clapping, dancing, and singing. And automatically, I'm interested. I'm like, yeah, music, music, music.
Yeah.
I'm so pumped. So, and then we get there, and there are people everywhere just clapping, dancing, just having a great time. I didn't know what it was, but I joined in.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, I joined in. I just started dancing and other kids in the church. And then on our way back to the village, I asked my dad, I was like, what was that place? He said, oh, son, that's a church. I said, a church? What's a church? And then he said, well, it's a place where other believers who believe in God, our creator, goes to worship him and goes to fellowship with each other. I was like, oh, wow, really? So I said, we have a God. He said, yes, we have a God, son. He made me and he made you and he made the whole world. So that's my first introduction to being a Christian and to God. But not until I went to the orphanage where I spent most of my life as a young kid there. That's where I dove deeper into my relationship with God and truly started to understand who God was and how I see myself in God's eyes. And because of that, I started to learn more, read the Bible, learn scriptures, quote scriptures, go to devotion every morning, every night. So and go to church every Sunday. So I got very involved. I was very intrigued and want to learn more about my faith and who this God that made me is to understand more about who He is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love just hearing that how he began to draw you to himself.
Mhm.
And how you were able to embrace that. And as you've shared with us, you have a family of origin that you remember well and know well, and yet adoption is a part of your story. You mentioned an orphanage. So tell us about your adoption experience from your perspective.
Well, my adoption experience is one of a kind. Um, you know, after losing my family, it was so difficult to just know who I am and to find a place of belonging. And in the orphanage, there are several missionaries who will come every so often, and these missionaries will, be friends with kids and sponsor them or adopt them into America. And I was not one of those kids, and I just sat back and watched, and in heartache, my heart just hurt, my mind just was overwhelmed, and I was just so overwhelmed with sadness and grief that I just want to be loved. I just want to be in a family. I just want
Mm,
somebody to call me your own. I just want to have a brother and a sisters that I can ride my bike with. Something simple as that. That's all I wish for. And I cried, I prayed, I cried, I prayed, I cried for so many years. And not until I came to America with the African Boys Choir that God answered that prayer for me. And He gave me the opportunity to meet my sisters, who then led me to meeting my mom, Lisa, and then my family, then being adopted. So my adoption story is one of a kind, and I really, really am grateful to God that He heard my prayer. He heard my cry. He was with me all along, though I was going through a hard time, hardship, and all the heartaches and feeling so alone and sad all the time and hungry,
yeah.
you know. And now I get to be in a family where I don't have to worry about something like that anymore,
Yeah.
you know. So my adoption story was amazing because my parents were amazing parents. They took me in, they loved me, they gave me security, they took me to church, reintroduced me to God, and I got baptized actually, you know. Um,
Yeah.
so my adoption story was one for the books and one for the ages. So I give all the glory to God that He answered my prayer and put me in a position where I have a loving family now of my own.
That's beautiful. I love that. And you mentioned years of prayer. How old were you when you were finally adopted?
I was actually 15 years old.
15.
I was 15 years old, and I was like, I'm 15 years old. I don't care. I
Yeah.
need parents. It don't matter. I still want to
Yeah.
be loved. I
Yeah.
still want to have a family, and I know God has a bigger plan for my life. And I know that being in a family, He is going to open so much more doors to connect with His people who I'm calling mom and dad and sisters and brothers now. To build that connection with them on the next level that would last a lifetime.
That's incredible. I love that. I've heard your mom share your story from her perspective.
Hmm.
And it is incredible and it's beautiful. And on one hand, y'all, I'm just going to confess this because I've heard Lisa tell her story about this and how she went and saw the boys choir and then she met Jackson,
Hmm.
and it was just smooth sailing from there. And I'm like, no fair, because it just seemed so easy. But
Yeah.
listen, it was God's will. Like you're talking about, that was God's plan. And you had waited for so long. We don't hear the details on the other side of it. I see Lisa met you, the process happened, and boom, y'all were a family. But to hear the backstory of that, it's just incredible. And I'm so grateful that you're willing to share it and to teach our parents. Jackson, I shared with you, our listeners today are, we adoption is our heart. It is our life story in some way or another. For some, it's foster care, but for most of us, it's adoption. And so we want to learn. We
Hmm.
want to learn how to be better parents. We want to learn how to embrace this calling well, to meet the children that God calls into our families in a way that gives that forever fulfillment that you're talking about, of a family, the safety, the community of it, and all of those things. And so I have questions. And, on behalf of our answers, or I'm sorry, on behalf of our listeners, I want to ask these things. And really for me too, my story is different. Our adopted daughter joined us as a newborn. But hearing from adult adoptees and your experiences and your perspective on things is invaluable,
Yeah.
as we grow to try to become better parents for our adopted children. So, all that to say, I want to ask, especially because international adoption has been, it's changed a lot in recent years. The predictability of it, the cost of it, the availability now for kids and waiting. There's just a lot with that, but some of our families really do feel compelled to pursue international adoption. But listen, domestic adoption is just as challenging now. So I'd love to ask you what advice you have for families who are either praying about adoption or maybe they are waiting for adoption, whether it's international or domestic. Something that you feel like is really important for them as parents to know.
Well, that's a great question, by the way. Something that my parents did really well in my case was that my parents prepared their hearts, right?
Hmm.
Not just their home. They prepared their heart. And my mom, she had a prayer she say every morning, that, she wants to say yes to God today. So she prepared her heart to receive that gift from God. So
Yeah.
if you're trying to adopt the kids from overseas or wherever you're adopting from, you have to make sure that your heart is ready, not just your home, because international adoption is beautiful. I tell you that it's beautiful. All right, but it comes with a lot of layers. A
Yes.
lot of layers. In my case, a lot of trauma, loss, and navigating my cultural identity. You know,
Yes.
and that won't vanish overnight. You are not welcoming a child. You're inheriting the story like this kids come from these kids bring it to
That's
the
right.
family. You're inheriting that, and my biggest thing would be that um, to be patient, to be patient, um, and be teachable, and stay rooted in prayer. Prayer,
Yeah.
prayer, prayer, prayer. I pray
Yeah.
all the time. You know, just without no reason, I just pray. In my car, walking, listening to music, listening to Les Brown or Miles Monroe or whoever, I just pause and start praying. Because what that child needs is more than perfection. That
Yes.
child needs your presence,
Yes.
right? Because if you're in a good place, your heart is in a good place, then you are one with God. You're connected with God, and because of that, you are in His presence, and you're physically present in this child's life because it needs you to be present for them.
That's so good. Wonderful advice. I love that. And you mentioned something that I think is really important. And there are key components to your story where you you were adopted as a teen. You were adopted from another country into a brand new culture, and there was a difference in ethnicity.
Right.
So there were 3 major factors that your parents had to be prepared for, to embrace, to meet you well in that. So for our families who are praying about or maybe have been matched with a child in one or all of those categories, what advice do you have for those families? Maybe something you wish your parents had known, or something that you really want our parents to know as they're considering those factors?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing for me would be to celebrate that kid's culture in your home.
Yeah,
It's a big thing. For me, in my story, that made me feel special, and that made me feel as if my parents wanted me to stay true to who I am and to also celebrate where I'm from, not just be adopted into an American home and become Americanized, and then forget who I am.
right.
You know, so my parents did a great job by helping me to embrace that into the home. So that helped a lot. That'd be my advice,
Yeah.
of course, with that. Sure.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I love that. And that is an important component, because you are a culmination of all of the
Mhm.
aspects of your story and the years that God's given you, the hard and the beautiful. And so celebrating that, I think, is a key aspect to consider. It's not something that we automatically have to pity or go in and try to fix something, but let's embrace and celebrate who we are, and then let's grow together in the Lord and who he's making us to be. So I love that you share that. Now, Jackson, you had said, being a teen, you came with a lot of trauma, and we know that that's true for any of our children who come to us through adoption, because one family was broken to form another,
Right.
essentially. And so, how would you encourage our adoptive parents whose children or teenagers are really struggling with their adoption story? Maybe they're fighting against, maybe they're pushing back, and
Mhm.
seeing God as not good as a result of what they've experienced, and
Mhm.
not fully embracing the plan that He has for them. How can parents be better equipped to meet our children in that struggle, and to point them towards truth and love?
Wow, that's a powerful question. Well, from my experience, I would say that I would remind them that struggle is not a sign of failure.
Mm,
It's not a sign of failure.
that's good.
It's not. It's part of the journey.
Yeah.
It's a long journey we are on. So failures will happen over and over again. You have to give yourself grace, right? As someone who wrestles with my own adoption and God's plan for my life, I can say this to you. What helped me the most wasn't having all the answers. It was not. It was having someone stay close when I was questioning everything. I had so much questions about life, where I'm at,
Yeah.
what's going on. Are you my mom, my dad? Like, what's this? What's that? And if someone's gonna hurt me, do I have to worry about food? Do I have to worry about this? Having so much question. And as adopted parents, right? Don't panic if your child is wrestling with the identity of faith. Do not panic. You're not there to fix them. You have to have patience, like I said. Okay,
So good.
you have to have patience with them. You're not there to fix them. Sit in the questions with the kids and try to understand the question, try to understand what it is they're asking you, talking to you about, right? and
Yes.
and be present when they're talking to you. Be 100% present. Don't be on your phone. Don't be saying like, well, hurry up, I have another appointment, I have to go here, I have to go there. Okay, I just be present. Like, I
Mm,
love that. Like, I my parents gave me that. That's what I enjoy your undivided attention. I want to feel heard, when I'm talking to you about something that's heavy on my heart that I'm
right.
wrestling with, right? So you being
Yeah.
present and being patient lets me know that it's okay to be okay. It's not okay to be okay, but God is big enough for our struggles. No
That's
matter
right.
what our struggles are, He is bigger, right? So just be present and be coachable and teachable in these moments with these kids, and be present at all times.
That is an incredible word, and something that I think all of us need to ponder. I think, to be an adoptive parent, you have to be tenacious. You have to be a go-getter. There's so many aspects as you go in pursuit of the child that God has called for you, the paperwork, the all the steps, right? And so we're in doer mode is my point, right? And
Mhm.
so we do have to pull back from that
Mhm.
when our child arrives and is now a forever part of our family. We've got to turn off that doer mode. And I'm pointing, like the host is pointing at herself right now, guys, if you're
Yeah.
not watching this on YouTube, because I am the doer. I want to check those boxes. I want to fix the problems. If I see struggle, I almost panic and I'm like, gotta fix, must fix, research the problems, figure out the tools, whatever, and
Mhm.
so it really is important. I love that point, Jackson, of just
Thank
be
you.
present. The struggle's not failure,
It's
it
not.
is the presence over perfection, over any method, any practical application we can possibly give.
Yes.
But isn't that's the Lord too? His presence with us is what He wants to give us
Yes.
if we receive it. And so we model that as parents
Yes.
with our children as we're walking through. We live in a broken, sinful world. So guess what? We're going to struggle. I don't know why. And again, pointing at myself, I don't know why I think that shouldn't be a factor. Struggle is inevitable, but it's the presence and the struggle with the Lord and then with our children and as families that is so good and so sweet. Oh, brilliant point, Jackson. I
And
love that. That's
and,
fantastic.
and you will see for yourself once you become more present in this kid's life, right? You'll see the weight of their shoulders will fall off. And
Yes,
see like
right.
that their behaviors will change, their attitude will change because they've struggled their whole entire life to be connected to somebody.
Yeah.
They'll fight the whole life to have somebody listen to them, somebody love them, somebody to give them that room to be open and be vulnerable. And you, as an awesome parent, sweet, great parents, just sitting there, hand tucked on your chain, and just giving them your undivided attention,
Yeah.
and then just loving on them. There's nothing better in the world than that. That's security for us, you know,
Yes.
because we just want to be heard. We've never been heard before. We got a lot of stuff going on in our head, all the time because we took care of ourselves,
Right.
throughout. And if we have someone like you that can just give us that undivided attention and pour into us and to be there for us, we appreciate that more than anything you think about, more than you know. We appreciate that.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That is absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. My goodness. Y'all, I'm just really overcome with that. And just what a great reminder. It's so, so good for us to keep at the forefront of our minds because we do. Life gets busy and we just get into the routine of things, but we have to remember to be present with one another. So I love that. That is such a great point. And Jackson, we're talking about, finding God's purpose and embracing his plan for our lives. And that's a big part of the message of your book. And you know, interruption to the plan is a given when it comes to adoption, right? I mean, it is just a given. We have this idea of what it's going to be and how it's going to go, and whether that's adoption through foster care, whether it's international adoption, domestic, all run the gamut of all the options that we can welcome children who are not biologically ours into our homes. There are so many aspects of this calling where things just turn out differently than the plans that we have made or even the plans that we've hoped for. Y'all know that our story consists of 10 failed adoptions in 12 years. We've had one successful placement. And so my hope and my plans were made to welcome children and embrace them and give my heart to them before, I ever even had a chance to meet them. And that wasn't God's plan. And so my point being, it's not going to go the way we plan it, right, Jackson? And
Yeah.
so, what advice do you have for us as Christian parents and just as believers in general
Yeah.
to be able to fully embrace God's plan as best and good for us?
Well, a good reminder here, Summer, is that God's plan rarely looks like our blueprint, but it's always better for the soul. As an adopted child, okay,
Yeah.
I've seen how the messiest parts of the story are often where God does his deepest work.
Mm,
Okay. My advice is this to you, my friend. Surrender your expectations and embrace what it is.
yeah.
Surrender the expectation. You have to lower the expectation. Don't hurt yourself. Don't do too much. Okay.
That's great.
Control that. Okay. And the second thing I would say is that this calling isn't about control. It's
Yeah.
about compassion. You don't have to have control of the situation, but it's by having passion, compassion for these kids, and compassion what God has called you to do. God's plan may break your heart before it builds your faith. Remember that.
That's so
Okay?
good.
This calling isn't about control, it's about compassion. Having compassion for these children, having compassion for what God has called you to do. And God's plan may break your heart before it builds your faith. Okay? But if you lean in, if you lean in, you'll find the beauty in everything that's been broken. Okay? You just have to lean in, have that compassion, and trust God and do it His way and trust His timing. And He'll reveal to you what it is that you need to know and how to
Yeah.
carry on for these kids.
That's beautiful. Oh, such words of wisdom. Oh, that'll preach. Love it. Love it. Jackson, I could talk to you all day,
I know.
honestly. But I want to ask you, just as we're closing out our conversation, through all of this and everything that you've shared with us, and just the incredible story that God has written in and through you up to this point, because He's got a long journey ahead that where He's just going to continue to do great works in and through you. I know. But what is the biggest lesson that He has taught you through your story up to this point?
I, I would say that one of the biggest lessons God had taught me throughout my experiences, throughout um, running for my life in that jungle, digging through trash cans to find food. Um, he taught me to keep my eyes on Him,
Mm,
to keep my eyes on Him. Pray without pray without no season. Even
hmm
with the accent, my heavier accent I have, I still pray to Him. And he encouraged me to continue praying and to continue to pursue Him consistently on a daily basis. And I did that through going to devotions every night and every morning, right? And to continue to sharpen my faith with Him and to be patient in this process as well, because this will not work on my timing. It never will. It never has. And all I can do is be present where I'm at, where I was at, to be present there and make the best out of it. And I did that by forming an African Boys Choir with my friends, making the best out of that situation and using that
Yeah.
situation to share an incredible story, to where so many children were adopted from my orphanage and it continues to be adopted because of my obedience to what He's called me to do. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I've had the privilege of just having a relationship with God to where I learned to be patient, to pursue Him, to work on having a great character, being loving, caring, and spending a lot of time with Him. You know,
Yeah.
so that's been my lessons for Him so
I love it. That's amazing. I didn't realize you started the choir.
far.
Like,
Yeah,
that's amazing.
yeah,
And how God was orchestrating so many stories just as a result of that prompting.
my friends and I did, because at the orphanage, we had no choice, but to just praise God. That's all we had. There's
Yeah.
nothing else. We just love to sing. We love to dance, and we love to sing. We love to dance. We love to worship. That's just part of our culture, part of our nature. And
Yeah.
though so much hardship was around us, but we did not allow that to distract us from who we knew God was,
Yeah.
right? Who knew God
Yeah.
was. I mean, there are days where we went without food. There are days we went without nothing for days or even weeks at a time, and we drink hot water for dinner, right?
Mm.
But we kept our faith on Him. We kept our eyes on Him, and we kept praising. We kept dancing. We kept singing in His hardships, and that's what I encourage you to do. Going through hardships, don't just give up. Don't cry. Don't go sit in the closet. Like, find a way to connect with God. Talk to Him about
Yeah.
that. Pray about it. Seek counsel. Seek friends. Go talk to people who will pour into you and people you can be vulnerable with, right?
Yeah.
And that's a community that we form in the village that helped my friends and I to form an African voice choir that gave us the opportunity to come to America to share the gospel, to share our testimony, and raise awareness for our friends back in the orphanage in Liberia.
Yeah.
I'm blessed to be in that position, for real.
Oh, Goodness gracious. That's just incredible. I love hearing that and just and learning from you and hearing your story. Y'all are I wish we could all be in a room together because I'm like, I know y'all are blessed by this and I'm super excited right now. And I kind of just want to start jumping up and down, dancing and singing myself. So, but I'll restrain myself. But I am just so grateful to have had the chance just to visit with you and to hear this. And listeners, I know you're blessed as well. Jackson, we need to know for sure how to get a copy of this book and learn more, dive into your story more, and to connect with you further. So how can we do that?
Yeah, so my book is available on Amazon, Books a Million, and wherever you get your books at. You can look up The Only Way Forward is Back. The Only Way Forward is Back on Amazon, or you can type in my name, Jackson TerKeurst, on Amazon or Books a Million. On Instagram as well, Jackson TerKeurst _ You can find me on there. I'd love to connect with you, get to meet you, have a conversation with you, and yeah, be a blessing to you however I can.
I love that. Okay, friends, I will have those links in today's show notes. And it is launch week. And so I want you to encourage you to support Jackson and as he is sharing his story with the world. And we are just praying blessings upon blessings for you as you continue in your ministry, my friend. It has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Summer, for the time. You're amazing.
Thank you so much for listening to Called to Love today. I love to hear from listeners, and so I would love to connect with you to hear your stories and answer your questions right here on the show. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram, send me a direct message, or send me an email at the link in today's show notes. I pray you have been encouraged by today's episode to walk in faith and continue to embrace your own call to love. Until next time, blessings, sweet friends.